Hi guys, my name is Chris Beauregard. Thank you for your time today. I'm the founder of DefibNow. It's a company that I started because I saw a fragmented marketplace and an opportunity to create valuable change for myself, but also for millions of people in America. DefibNow offers user-friendly AEDs, which are automated external defibrillators, proper program management, and adequate training to provide customers the best chance to save a life and lower exposure to liability. I'd like to begin very quickly by telling you a story about Christian Federico. Christian, or C-Fed as we knew him, was a neighbor to me in my freshman dorm. He was an extremely versatile athlete, was a varsity athlete in multiple sports, and even walked on to the Division I baseball team at our college. Was an otherwise healthy individual, but unfortunately he passed on a routine jog. The really unfortunate part about it was that there were people nearby who could have saved him if they had known what to do, or if there was a defibrillator at the property. So with that in mind, Christian's story brings to light some somewhat harrowing statistics that sudden cardiac arrest is actually the leading killer in the United States. It affects about 400,000 people per year, or one every other minute, and most of them have no prior symptoms, and it affects people of all ages. The 5-minute mark is about where there's irreversible damage to the internal organs, especially the brain. Unfortunately, the self-reported statistic of emergency medical responders is that it takes about 10 minutes for them to get there, which leaves a lot to be desired. And that's actually a self-reported statistic, which many of you can assume it's actually a little bit worse than that, especially in urban areas where you have to deal with vertical transit. So with that said, there's about 400,000 people per year affected and about an 8% survival rate. Is there a laptop I can use to hit next? So DefibNow comes into play because we provide the industry's most user-friendly defibrillator. We partner with a company called Zoll. They're based out of Massachusetts, and they provide a defibrillator that allows the user to actually see a CPR feedback because of an accelerometer in the pads. It's also an automatic application, which means that there's no hesitation for the person aiding the victim. We further go on to provide program management, which then allows the building that has the defibrillator in place to be protected by Good Samaritan laws. We bring to them a software suite that allows them to track their readiness. We provide replacement parts, as well as a prescription required by the FDA. We also equip the responders with adequate training provided by the American Heart Association. And we're currently developing an industry-altering AED concept that's going to save a lot more lives and save these buildings additional expense. As the founder of DefibNow, I've handled everything from the design of the website or marketing materials, as well as process flows, incorporation, and the initial business development. I'm an American Red Cross first responder. I have 3 years of experience in building services, actually working with a company called ThyssenKrupp, which is the largest elevator company in North America. And I'm pursuing a Science and Technology Policy Master's program at the Elliott School of International Affairs. I'm assisted by Mark Tenenbaum. He's a doctor from Georgetown University, a fellow at the American College of Cardiology, and a practicing cardiologist for 35 years. He's assisted in anything that's medical related that I needed some additional advice on, literature review, product selection, etc. Chris Hembry has been a very vital part of this startup. He's a VP of Property Management at Cushman & Wakefield, which is one of the largest property management companies in the States. He's a bar-certified lawyer. He handles a portfolio of properties in D.C. and has exceptional experience in contract creation and has helped me be the easiest to work with among my competitors. With their help, I've been working on a concept called Elevate, which brings defibrillators to you at the press of a button by utilizing elevators at existing properties. Now, why is this a good idea? To get to a defibrillator, most people have to run to the lobby of a building because buildings don't want to put a defibrillator on every single floor which is actually the advice of the American Heart Association, the American Red Cross, so on and so forth. They say that you should get to the defibrillator within a minute and a half to make an effective attempt at saving someone's life. But because of the distance to a lobby, that's not realistic. So by putting them on elevators, we reduce the time to the defibrillator. We also reduce the number of defibrillators required for a large commercial office building with multiple floors. To complete this step, we plan on manufacturing a slim defibrillator that's able to fit into the car operating panel of an elevator. I've been speaking with several fabrication companies because a new trend in elevators is prefabrication of the entire cab interior to save on time and money. They then drop the panels in, and it's a 2-day process, but it's far less expensive and time-consuming as it previously was, but allows us to then partner with these companies to integrate our equipment in before the actual installation of the products. Thanks. Before talking about our customers, I'd like to review the current legal status of defibrillators. For legislation, this is actually incredibly exciting stuff because the timing of it is such that a lot of jurisdictions are now requiring defibrillators in schools, fitness centers, senior living facilities, as well as large venues that can hold typically about 1,000 people or more. That's why they're so popular in airports now. And you should see them in a lot more places in the very near future. Good Samaritan laws have been federally enacted, and they actually protect these buildings that purchase the defibrillators as well as the companies that sell them and the responders that use them. Recently, it's been proven that you're actually more likely to get sued for not having a defibrillator versus having one on site. Although once you do have one on site, there's a higher standard of care that's expected. You're required to keep up the maintenance, perform routine inspections, and keep records of this as well as filing with the jurisdiction. Our target customers primarily are commercial office properties. They're represented by a property manager who represents their ownership. They're very concerned with liability. They are interested in improving the building image, and because they're so pressed for time and their staff is so small, they're very likely to outsource their work to an outside contractor. Of the 1.6 million office buildings in the U.S. that are 10,000 square feet or more, that brings us to a $14 billion market with an average sale, in my experience, of about $9,000 per customer for a 3-year contract. Additionally, we'd like to work with legally required locations such as schools, fitness centers, senior facilities, and large venues, including concert halls, stadiums, and conference centers, which is an additional $4 billion market based on about 200,000 locations in the United States. So far, we've proved our concept. We're currently working with about 8 locations. It's multiple commercial office buildings, a medical office, a school, a church, and we've made several online sales as well. And these types of sales include the new equipment sales, an installation process for about half of them, as well as training and our program management concept. DefibNow is different than its competitors because we provide a turnkey solution. A lot of the competitors simply sell the defibrillator and wash their hands of it, effectively increasing their customers' liability, making it a little bit more dangerous of an atmosphere for the people who will then use it and the people who it would then be used on. Very briefly, I'd like to talk about our financial status. We have incredibly low overhead, which I'm very happy to report has made us profitable after just about 6 months of our proof of concept. We're focusing on multi-year agreements, which is actually the industry standard, a 3 or 5 year rolling agreement, which helps with customer retention, but also is preferred by the customer because as long as we're doing our job correctly, they're happy to have it, out of their way. And we're also working on new product development, which in about 2 years will provide a substantial additional source of revenue. Thus far, program management has been the most profitable facet of our business, and we anticipate continuing to follow that trend with the program management being a major component of our revenue. But as soon as the Elevate concept is launched, we'd like to make a big push on that. As I mentioned, we do have some revenue. Our overhead is incredibly small and at the moment only includes insurance, website fees, software licenses, though we do plan on expanding and hiring a business development team in the near future, which will increase our overhead. But at this point, we are profitable and cash positive. In the next 2 months, I'd like to hire an additional business development team member. based out of our DC office, with an expansion to Philadelphia before the end of the year, and then expand up the East Coast. And they would be supported by a small administrative team. We're also looking to bring on board someone to visit these locations with our defibrillators. I'd like to end on a quote that is just about the best endorsement that I could get right now. It's from the Building Owners and Managers Association, which is sort of the de facto industry organization for commercial office buildings. And they say that the new AEDs are safe, effective, easy to use, and relatively inexpensive. Having trained lay rescuers equipped with AEDs in settings where large numbers of people congregate saves precious minutes and improves survival rates for cardiac arrest victims. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to your questions. Yes?
So sorry about the loss of your friend. I was thinking you really don't have a competitive advantage when I was listening to you, that you put up the chart about the competitors and it's some service.
Sure.
But then I saw on your slide there, patent filing. Is that a planned thing for the packaging within the elevator?
Yes. So we would apply for a patent on this slim defibrillator, which would be small enough because none of the current defibrillators are small enough to fit inside of an elevator cab. We'd apply for a patent on that, as well as the cabinet and the concept of having it inside the elevator panel.
You just said we will, correct?
Will.
And in
Have not yet.
2018?
We would like to apply for it in the next year.
Have you done a provisional application?
No. We have been speaking with the cab manufacturers and a manufacturer for defibrillators, but nothing, no provisional. Yeah.
Just to clarify, so until that point, the product that you're outselling is?
We're a value-added reseller for Zoll currently.
Okay.
And that's partially a proof of concept, but also a revenue source.
What's the whole package? You said at least the 3 years. How often do you visit? Who checks it?
Sure. So the program management concept is the monthly program. We would visit once a month to check their equipment. We then input that we visited in the app. They're able to then check that on their end. It assists them because they're able to have some transparency that we're actually doing our job, but also if there's ever a use of the defibrillator, the local jurisdiction would then check to see that it was properly checked by somebody. We'd also provide a replacement unit while we pull the data from the one that was used. So really outsourcing their entire AED program.
How do you know if one's been used?
They would tell us, but there's also a way to, when we test it, we provide a manual check of it, and it would say that either the battery is depleted or.
I was just wondering if there's some way to hook it up to the internet so it reported itself.
Yeah, so the company we're working with is intending to do that. They've already launched one in Europe that does that. So that's something that we're pretty interested in, but not currently.
And what's the cost of the service?
The cost of the defibrillator at the moment is about $1,200. We sell them for about $17. Our program management for the lowest level of it is about $15 per month, and that provides the software license. The step above that is about $30 per month, depending on the customer, and that includes our parts replacement. And the step above that is the monthly visitations, and that's about $50 per month, which compared to a lot of building services, such as elevators, is a pretty minor cost and something that they can, if they haven't budgeted for in the current year, can easily budget for the following year.
Per unit?
I'm sorry?
Per unit.
Per unit, correct.
So you put one in every elevator because you don't know which one's going to respond.
Correct.
So would there be discounts? I imagine there would be discounts for the
Certainly.
plans if they have 6 elevators.
Certainly, but any installation of defibrillators in the elevators would still be less than the recommendation of one per floor.
Who do you sell to? Is it the facility management
Sure.
company? Is it the elevator management company?
Sure. So currently we're selling directly to the property managers who
Okay.
represent the ownership. They're typically the first point of contact. They work with typically a building engineer on their team who's a good asset for us to have because it's them who would then have the extra work to do. So if we can get them to pitch the concept to their property manager, it's in our benefit. For the Elevate product, it would be very similar, although we'd look for partnerships with the elevator cab manufacturers to have them pre-installed as an option that they sell.
And then you go into the buildings once a year or something and provide training to the people who work in those buildings? Or
So the training from the American Red Cross and the American Heart Association expires every 2 years. So that's another thing that's able to be tracked through that software suite, and it tells them that their training is about to expire and to file again for a new training class. And yes, we provide that training through the American Heart Association.
So do you have a sales force that's going out and meeting with property managers and these kind of?
Right now, it's just me.
Okay.
And as a graduate
That's what
student,
you're doing.
yeah, as a graduate student, I'm ready to bring on somebody else to help.
Okay.
Yep.
Have you thought about bringing Zoll into as an investor?
As a long-term goal, that is an option. Zoll doesn't currently have a sales staff, and they partner with these resellers to sell their products. So I'm certainly interested in looking into it, but I don't see it being something that they would actively pursue without me reaching out to them.
Yeah, right.
So who are you selling against in terms of other resellers, say out to commercial property, and do other resellers have service models and program management capabilities?
Sure. So Cintas is the only company I've found that has a service product. The other resellers, I have not actually run into any other Zoll resellers in this market. Zoll has been pretty careful about selecting so they don't overlap and they're competing against each other. So they are out there, but they're they're not condensed enough that I'm actually running into them on a regular basis.
Not resellers of other types other than Zoll's product?
I actually have not seen many resellers of any defibrillator products. Most of my experience has been that companies will Google buy a defibrillator and check it off their list of things to do, and they'll go to a company like AED.com or HeartSmart, one of those that they buy it, they shove it in a drawer, and they forget about it.
Right.
So these things are battery powered or?
Correct.
Battery
Correct.
powered?
So the batteries and the pads have a 5-year lifespan on the Zoll products, which is the longest in the industry, which also means that once they've purchased their defibrillator, it has the lowest cost of ownership.
So you're cash flow positive right now. What do you need the seed money for?
To grow effectively, we'd like to get a bit more money to be able to have an operational capital, and then also to perform additional research and the patent filing and everything associated with launching Elevate.
So how much do you need?
I'd like to get about $100,000 in the next year, from a variety of sources. I haven't looked into any venture funding at the moment, but that's something I would pursue in the next few months.
If you got the 100,000 today, how long would it take you to expedite getting an Elevate patent?
That's a good question.
Provisional patent filed, sorry.
The model that I showed is what I anticipate if I were to get that $100,000 in the next year. So I still don't think, given the amount of time it takes to get the patent and the product design and the manufacturing in order, I still don't think it would be less than a year and a half. But I'd be happy to find out.
Well, then how much do you think you need for someone to, for marketing to ramp up? You're already positive cash flow, so obviously, and there's a need out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can we accentuate that cash flow?
Yeah.
Why, could you use some of that 100, or you need a little more?
I'd like to expand relatively quickly using a sales team, and I wouldn't have the capital at the moment. I am self-funded, and I wouldn't
That's
say
what I'm asking you. So how much do you need to do that?
100,000 is what I think would be reasonable.
That's for everything?
For everything, and on a commission-based sales force.
Commission-based sales force?
Yes.
So what are you going to pay them commission?
When they sell the products.
I understand that.
Yeah.
What are you going to pay them? You're only selling a unit for $1,700.
Right,
It cost you
but
12, so there isn't that much margin in there to pay them. So they'd have to be selling a lot of them to make a decent living.
Right, so a lot of the buildings will typically buy at least 2 to 3 at a time. They'd also be buying the program management, the training, and the installation.
So is there a way for you to sell to buildings now before you get the elevator program up and running, and then you could just flip them out to them?
To pre-sell them before the concept is in
Well,
place.
I got a 10-floor building. I give you 10 of them now. When the elevator comes in, I flip it out. I make them clients now.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sell them a defibrillator now, and then when the new product comes out.
You go out and get a bunch of POs.
Well, right? Am I?
But,
I'm just
but
thinking
swap out
out-
the existing equipment. That does make sense, and that would be the goal. I would hope that my existing customers
I'm
would.
just seeing, because what you're telling me is that this is low-hanging fruit. So let's get it now and we'll convert it.
That's the goal. Thank you.